Welcome to Screams and Streams, the podcast that looks at the best and worst horror movies as rated on Rotten Tomatoes from 1970 onwards. I'm your host, Chad Campbell, and with me is my co-host,
Mike Karen. Make
sure you stop by our website, screamsandstreams.com, and also check us out on Instagram. Our handle is @ScreamStreamPod. Just a warning, if you don't like spoilers, we recommend that you stop listening now, check out the film, and then rejoin us for our discussion. Today, we are looking at Tobe Hooper's 1982 film, Poltergeist. It scored 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's get into it. Mike's going to give us our plot summary.
All right. Thank you. There's two on IMDb that I want to read. One is the just generic IMDb one that does not do the film justice. It's just, a family's home is haunted by a host of demonic ghosts.
Oh, well, that's, yeah. It's pretty vague, but yeah.
And I don't even think that's the film. And the next one is written by Rob Hartill, and it's a young family are visited by ghosts in their home. At first, the ghosts appear friendly, moving objects around the house to the amusement of everyone. Then they turn nasty and start to terrorize the family before they kidnap the youngest daughter.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, much better. Captures it much better.
Yeah, I think so. And then we go into our sinister sips. So our cocktail is Don't Go Into the Light Velveteen Lounge Kitchen.
Yeah, Velveteen Lounge Kitchen is the YouTube channel where this one comes from.
Okay, nice.
It is 2 parts vodka, 1/4 ounce of lime, and then 1/2 ounce of vanilla liqueur and ginger liqueur.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's interesting.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of flavors going there. I honestly can't say if I like it or not yet.
Yeah. I feel like it needs to be sweetened up a bit, but you're definitely not going to slam this one back and go for a second right away.
No, you can taste the vanilla. Like the ginger comes on a little later, but yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. All right. First impressions of this film, Mike, have at her.
This is another one of those films that I watched way too young again. I think I was probably 10 or 12 years old, but I almost feel like that's the age to watch this. It's rated PG.
Yep.
And a lot of the sort of frights, especially in the start of the film, are from that, like the fear of the younger child.
Yep.
So it really is a movie made to, and this sounds weird, but scare children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back then I loved it. I still remember that sound of that sort of almost backwards, like, mommy, when Carol Ann's in the TV world.
Yeah.
And that, like, it just sent shivers up my spine. So I loved it as a kid. And then it was ruined by 2 terrible sequels in my mind. And I can't remember the last time I actually watched this before watching it for this one. And looking at it now, it's good. I definitely enjoyed it, but it's definitely a Spielberg film.
Yes.
And so I'll get into that when we get into our categories. I enjoyed it. I was entertained. I still loved the little things that scared me when I was a kid. There's still creepy moments in it, but wasn't as impactful as an adult as it was to me as a child.
No, I could see that. Yeah, I'm going to have to double up on that. I wasn't that young when I watched it. I was, again, in junior high school when I first found this film. And I remember watching it and being like, oh yeah, this is pretty creepy. Mm-hmm. Watching it again and seeing a lot of Spielberg films, there's definitely a lot of little things that are Goonie-ish or E.T. or whatever like that. I'll get into it with the categories as well. When he goes to the neighbor and they start complaining about the TV and he's like, come on, we're trying to watch the football game. My kids want to watch this. Like that just reminds me of the Goonies, that little section there. So there is definitely his touch to it as a horror film. And I know in my research, it was supposed to be darker. Mm-hmm. And then they took out a lot of the dark parts to get that PG rating. Yeah. But I still think it's a good watch. And I think, it is a good watch for kids for an introduction to horror movies. Yeah. I think it's a good one for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on, we're going to go into Tropes Hall of Shame. I'm going to start. My first trope is houses built on a burial ground. Boy, that never happens. What could go wrong? So this whole complex is built on this burial ground. It comes out later that they just removed the headstones. They didn't remove the bodies. And so the spirits are angry, my friends. And I think even at that time, it has kind of been done. Like, it just seems like everything that's haunted, it has to do with burial ground.
Yeah, cemetery or burial ground.
Yeah. So anyways, I think it's an easy way to explain why this is going on.
Yeah.
And what was your first one there, Mike?
My first one was and I loved it because you've alluded to it in your opening remarks, your first impressions. It was that moment with the TV set, but a game, a game being changed right at the critical moment.
Yes.
But I still,
what's going on? Yeah.
But I just love it like that. Suddenly it's Mr. Rogers and they're flicking back and forth.
Well, and I love how none of those guys that when it flicks back, they're like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know who Mr. Rogers is? I had another one, and this happens midway through the film where he's talking to his boss, Teague, and then Teague has convinced him that, hey, you can have all this land, and you're going to have all this. And it goes back to the house, and then he doesn't believe anything that the psychic is saying. All of a sudden, he's just, oh, no, this is ridiculous. So my trope is doesn't believe because the company wants a new development, and he's going to make a ton of money.
Right. Yeah. He's almost sold his soul.
Yeah. His daughter is obviously gone.
Yeah.
He knows something's up in the house, but he's like, hey, they're going to give me like a ton of money in a new development area and I'm going to be on this hill. Let's just do that.
But there's part of me that wonders, like, is he turning his back to what's going on in that house? Or is he like, that's his way out? I was wondering if we were going to get into that whole, like, they can't afford the house they're in kind of pressure. And so like, this is their way to like move out of something that they're not going to be able to sell because the company's going to move them. But it was a bit of a weird turn for Craig T. Nelson to go from, I just want my daughter back to, honey, we're doing well again.
It was very abrupt, right? Yeah. Like he comes in and all of a sudden this is ridiculous. I don't believe this. And she even makes note of it. She's like, what's happened to you?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And he goes off into the side and contemplates and stuff. And then you hear, Mommy, or whatever through the ceiling. So I just thought that was ridiculous because he knows his daughter is gone.
Right.
And something is happening in that house and he's still, yeah, okay.
Yeah. For me, my next one, and I loved it. Maybe, I don't know if it's a trope. I was almost going to put it in that doesn't hold up, but the Department of Popular Beliefs, Superstitions, and Parapsychology. For when Diane and Steve are at the university trying to get help. And it's like, just that trope of universities have a department that studies this, right? We're on the fringe of it. And it's like
paranormal.
I don't know about academia in the 1980s, but I can't imagine universities were funding the research of this.
Ghostbusters had that too, right? They had that whole thing where you... I'll go to my next one, which is the dog senses evil.
Oh, yeah.
So many times in this film, the dog is up and barking and he sees it, but they don't. And I really don't have a whole lot to say about it because it happens in every film.
Every film.
The animals can sense it, but the people can't. What's wrong, Billy? And whatever.
I did like the way they did that, where like he's sitting on the bed staring at the spot on the wall and barking.
They did it a little bit differently. They did it a little more, less menacing, right?
Yeah.
And again, speaking to Steven Spielberg and making it accessible to children, he stands up and it's almost like he's begging for a treat.
Yeah,
like he notices that, but he's not barking maliciously at it, like he's not growling, and which also leads to that we don't know that it's an evil spirit at first, and so he just barks. But still,
even later though, when it's Carol Ann's voice, like he stands up on his hind legs, like that's his family, right? So yeah, you're right. It's that Spielberg friendliness or childlike approachability. Yeah. My next trope was just the conversation between Robbie, Diane, and Tangina, where it's like, what happens when we die, mommy? And it's like, well, some people believe this and some people believe that. And yeah, you always have to have a conversation about the afterlife and where do our souls go?
There was another scene where paranormal activity is going on all around and the person doesn't see it, right? They have the cameras in all these different rooms and he's facing the other way of the camera and all this stuff is happening behind him and he's reading something.
Yeah, or eating Lay's or whatever it was.
Yeah, or whatever he was doing and he's not noticing any of it. And then all of a sudden, oh, what the heck? That was my next one. How about yourself?
My last one is the sending the family away from the danger.
Oh, yes.
Right. You're going to go live with your grandma and grandpa or your aunt and uncle or whatever.
Right.
And
I talk about that a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I agree with that one too. It's like, we got to get out of the house. Okay. And with that, we're going to go into our next category, which is one-liners. Mike, which ones jumped out at you?
My first line is when Robbie's in bed and there's the storm outside and he's looking at the tree.
Yeah.
he's talking to his mom, I believe, or maybe it's his dad. I can't remember, but he's talking to his parent, and he's just like, it knows I live here, doesn't it?
Oh,
About
yeah.
that tree. Like that tree was so well designed. There's that one knot that looks almost like a face.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of playing on the imagination of children, right? Like there's nothing scary, but a child can make it scary. So I quite like that line.
I had a chair in my room, a bunch of clothes heaped up on it. And you'd fall asleep and you wake up in the middle of the night, you look over there and it's like, something's on the chair. But no, it's not really anything. He was talking to his dad because his dad explains about the lightning and the thunder and the seconds between, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah. And then my second one this was more humorous, but it's when they're in the kitchen and Carol Ann is staring at the fuzzy TV.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like inches away from it. The mother's like, honey, that isn't good for you. You'll ruin your eyes. And she switches the channel to like a violent war movie with people like blowing up and dying. It's like, so it's not a matter of the distance from the television. It's just the white snow.
Yeah. What she's looking at, that's bad. Yeah. I know there's a couple of didn't age well parenting moments that I bring up a little later, but yeah. My first one was when everything's going crazy. They're going to jump into the closet and Tangina says, "You've never done this before." And then the mom says, "Neither of you." And she's like, "You're right. You go."
I had that whole exchange written down.
I love that one. Yeah, it was so good.
The way she delivers that line, she's like, "You're right. You go."
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck would I do
Yeah, why am I jumping in there? You go ahead and do it. Yeah, it's like, we both never done this. You have a relationship with this kid. I don't. My next one was, I just thought it was super cute when they get out of the demon area, put him into the tub, and then they wipe off all that goop. And Carol Ann looks up and says, "Hi, Daddy." And I just thought it was really cute the way she said it. And I know Steven Spielberg was going for an angelic look with this little girl, and I think he nailed it when he cast her. She's super cute.
Well, and it's relieving to the audience as well, because you've literally seen, well, not literally, but you've seen this family go through almost hell to get her back.
Right.
And the trauma they've experienced to get that.
Yeah.
And she just, "Hi, Daddy," like hasn't resonated, and we know that she's not going to be affected by it.
Right. Yeah. You have a couple more?
Yeah, my next one was at the Department of Popular Beliefs, etc. But I did like the way Craig T. Nelson delivered the line, because they're just tired and exhausted. And just so he's like, "Look, Dr. Lesh, we don't care about the disturbances, the pounding and the flashing, the screaming, the music. We just want you to find our little girl."
Yeah.
He and JoBeth Williams as the parents do such a good job. And
yes.
Yeah, at that point, until that weird turn, just he doesn't care about anything, just his daughter back.
Yeah. I thought the mom nailed it. I mentioned that in a later category. I'll just say it now, like with the, stood the test of time. Her acting and her believability of loving this child was really shone through in this film. I thought she did a great job.
She was amazing at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have another one?
I did, yeah. And this one's more humorous. It's when he's meeting his boss, and when the boss is in the house.
Teague, yeah.
And Teague's like, "Jesus, Steve, you look like shit."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I think I've got the flu, and Diane's got it too."
All the kids have it.
And then they go on a hike up a hill.
Yes, and he takes them out. And there was some elevation there. Like, if you're sick, that's a tough climb.
You're not making it. They go straight up, too. They're not cutbacks.
I had one. It was right after they get Carol Ann back. "This house is clean."
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good one. Kind of iconic line.
It's like, just like I didn't mention it, but they're here. We put it in the intro, but
I know, and that was in there, but I was like, I got to skip over that because that's such a huge line. That was their tagline.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, it's "they're back." And
But "this house is clean." I had it written down as well. Yeah.
I don't know why I wrote this down, but I thought it was pretty funny. It's Robbie saying goodnight to everybody, and there's the psychic from the university is there. He's like, "Good night, Mom. Good night, lady. Good night, Dad." Just thought it's like he doesn't know her name. He doesn't. It's obviously total disconnect. Good night, lady.
Good night,
I just thought it was so.
Good night, moon.
Yeah,
good night, lamp.
Good night, everything.
My last one is, it's towards the end of the movie. It's after the house has been cleared out, and it made me laugh so hard. They're packing up and the mom just says to the daughter, Dad wants us to stay at the Holiday Inn on I-74.
Oh, yeah.
And the daughter looks off and says, oh, yeah, I remember that place. And the way Diane's like, what? Oh, nothing.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I also had, it's Teague when he says, Jesus Christ, it's not ancient tribal burial ground. It's just people when they're talking about moving them around. And then I also had, this one, it's not a real great line. You've heard it before, but the way she delivered it and the emotion she delivered it with, the mom, when the kind of spirit passes through her on the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, she went through my soul, and she kind of breaks down, and it was the way that line was delivered that really got me. So I thought that was well done.
Yeah, when that first started and she does the whole like,
yeah,
it was like, it felt cheesy, but then her performance afterwards just sold it home. Yeah.
And now that we've talked about our one-liners and we've kind of alluded to this a little bit, we're going to go into what doesn't hold up. So my what doesn't hold up, my first one is the guy when he pulls his face off in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, I had that too.
Yeah. The face just looks so fake. It's very much like the Terminator now. Yeah. Where in the first Terminator, he's taking his eyeball out because he's been shot and needs to get rid of it. Yeah. That is what this is. The face just looks so unbelievably fake. He starts putting his fingers in it and pulling his face up. And then, of course, a trope again, he wakes up from that and is like, oh, what the heck? And just kind of snaps back into reality. And so that was my first one.
I just want to say, like, that one, it was shockingly bad.
Yes.
Because, like, Spielberg at the time was doing such a good job with the effects. And the effects in this film are amazing. And all of a sudden you have that weird, like, the physicality doesn't match where the hands and the face are. So it's like the Swedish Chef kind of
he was kind of
manipulation.
He must have been like blind trying to feel around where things were. And it just looked weird. And it just wasn't well done. No. So my next one, and we've talked about this just before, is the questionable parenting skills. They send their kids off in a cab.
Oh, okay.
And I know the older sister is supposed to be in there with them, but you don't see her. You only see Robbie in the window.
Right, yeah.
And they're just, okay, see you later. And the parents are there with the psychics and the kids just have gone off.
Well, I found it weird. Like, he's in the car and they stood a good 30 feet away. Like, not like hugging him, kissing him.
Yeah.
Just like, bye. Like
waving out the window is like, see ya. Yeah.
You can't cross the crosswalk or the sidewalk. Like,
we're not hugging. Like, they've already lost one kid. You think they went with them and then come back to the house?
Yeah, or waited for the grandparents to come and pick up Robbie and
pick
the
them
daughter.
Up? Why couldn't the grandparents pick them up? I don't understand that.
My first two aren't really big, but I'm going to say them anyway. But like, I don't know if this is doesn't hold up or just doesn't happen anymore. But it reminded me of like when I was a kid and TV channels would just stop broadcasting at like 1 a.m.
Yes. Okay. I had that as well. Yeah.
So in this, it starts with the American, the national anthem, and then it just goes to the white noise on the TV. Yeah. And it was sort of one of those like, I remember those days where it's like when you couldn't sleep and you'd go to turn on the TV, it's like, right, there's nothing on for the next 5 hours.
It shut down.
Yeah, it's weird. And then my next one was just like, Carol Ann had to have killed that goldfish with the amount of food she puts in that bowl. We have a classroom fish and we're very cognizant of how much food we put in because you can't order food. And she's just shaking it away. And you look in the water and at one point it is murky with food. So they must have gone in right away after and like cleared out the water.
Well, and that's the thing, like, and the mom doesn't even really, she's just, oh, you're feeding it too much. You know what happens? They get bigger and then blah, 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 and then they just laugh about it. It's like, that fish is going to die. Yeah. My next one was, this is kind of two, I guess, in one, but it's one of the psychic guys. It's the guy that rips his face off. Yeah. And it is his hunger at midnight. Oh. So how long, I didn't time it, but the way he holds that drumstick in his mouth is excessively long. Yeah. Like he holds it forever. He puts a bare steak on the counter. And I just said, like, salmonella, anyone? I know they want it to move and be creepy and stuff, but it just looks really bad. And then he's just going to pan fry a steak at midnight.
Yeah. That was my WTF moment.
He just makes himself at home.
Yeah.
Like he goes in there, I'm going to go find some food. And he just rooting around in their fridge and he grabs a 1/4-inch thick steak.
More than a quarter. That was a good half inch. Or 3/4 inch.
He's going to throw it into the pan and just fry it up. It's like I'm sorry, that thing's like $30 now.
I had all of those thoughts. That's why I put in the what the fuck? Because I was like, one, midnight snack is not a steak.
No.
But two, like,
and chicken.
With the price of meat these days, like you just you are stealing from this family.
So I think those were a couple in there. I didn't like the fact that he threw it on the counter.
That was weird.
I didn't like the fact that he was cooking his steak, and then I didn't like the way he was holding his chicken in his mouth for the whole time that he was looking for more food.
And then he just fucks off on the family.
And then he just leaves. I'm out of here. Yeah. So that was my next one. What's yours there, Mike?
My next two both deal with Dana, the daughter. And the first one is the construction workers catcalling her.
I had that too. Yeah.
It was, I get that there's that whole stereotype of like construction workers call out to women and objectify women, but she is playing a 16-year-old in the movie.
Super creepy.
And it's just, it doesn't work and it's so gross. And yeah.
Well, and the way she reacts
was great.
Was awesome, but the mom doesn't say anything. She's like, oh, she can handle herself. But yeah.
Well, I kind of like that though, because it's almost like Diane is watching that going like, should I step in? It's like, no, I raised a strong daughter. So
right.
Yeah. My other doesn't hold up is more just like Craig T. Nelson is great. Jo Beth Williams is great. Heather O'Rourke as Carol Ann is good for her age. Oliver Robbins as Robbie, I think, does a great job as well. And then Dana is kind of not there on screen that much. Like she's not
forgotten
present.
about it a lot. Yeah.
But the one thing that really doesn't hold up with me is they've gone out, the storm's raging, they've pulled the kid out of the tree and shit has gone crazy. And she's like, Mom, Dad, it's a tornado.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we know it's been happening for the last 4 minutes of screen time.
You've been out partying and now you're...
Well, no, she was in the house. She was in her bedroom.
Oh, right. Yeah. She was in the...
So right.
I'm thinking of at the end where they come back and the lights are flashing and she gets dropped off by her friend and she just sits there screaming forever. And I'm like, what the heck is going on?
She has a hickey on her neck.
Yeah.
So great.
And I love how the guy just speeds out of Dodge. Like he drops her off. He's like, oh shit. I'm out.
Nah, baby, I love you. It was just such a weird delivery, weird moment. And your family knows there was a tornado. So yeah, those are my next two.
Well, my next one is actually, as much as I liked Craig T. Nelson in this film, there's a scene where he really chews it up. And it's at 1:47. He says, you son of a bitch, you moved the headstones and not the bodies? Why? Why would you do that? And he just loses his mind and it's just way too much for me. I didn't buy it.
I liked it.
Oh, I didn't buy it.
I was looking at that. I was like, do I bring that back? Because I had already said like, this is my last line. Do I bring that back? I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. I didn't. I thought he just went way too. I can understand the intensity he wanted to bring to that line, but the way he said it, the way he screamed it at him, I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
So that was my note.
Yeah.
For Craig T. Nelson is like, maybe rein it in just a touch.
It's hard to yell and be angry without
screaming and going way too over the top. Yeah, no, I agree, but it just didn't hit home for me. So I wrote that down as it didn't age well.
I'll agree with the delivery, but I love the impact of the line.
Right. I also had the catcalling. When she walked out, the first thing I saw was one of the construction workers was from Predator.
Oh.
It's the guy in the shovel. He starts the whole thing. And it was it's like, oh, that's the chief from Predator. The other thing is with those construction workers, this is another one that doesn't age well. They're rooting through, like the one guy's putting his head in there.
Oh, into the kitchen?
Into the kitchen. He's trying to steal food as they're going by. She just draws the blinds. Like, obviously, they know these guys.
Right.
They've been around for a while. They're trying to put this pool in, which takes forever in a day. But yeah, those construction workers I also had as a note. Yeah.
I didn't mind the leaning in the windows. It reminded me of like Money Pit when they're like, the holes are in every wall and they're just just like,
It reminded me of the Burbs.
yeah, or the Burbs as
Where
well. Yeah.
that guy just walks in and eats all their food and is like, what are you going to do with those, Ray? Build something?
Yeah, so it almost becomes a trope, right? With the construction workers just invading privacy. But when you talk about what doesn't hold up is the day before the bird dies, they bury it in the cigar box.
Oh, but she was going to put it down the toilet.
She was going to flush it down.
How the hell is that bird going to go down the toilet?
Yes. and the best part is she's holding it like a good foot and a half above. Like, I'm just going to drop it down and hope there's no splashback.
Yeah.
But okay, so
the shadow of the bird and her hand hanging like
the sort of Damocles
dangling above, and she just brings it down slowly, and then Carol Ann comes in, Mommy, no.
I did like the, it's going to stink, so here's a flower. Like, it was sweet the way they put it together. But they spend all that time. They have a quick little funeral in the backyard. Cut to the next morning, and the backhoe is digging up the flower bed.
I didn't catch that. That's so amazing.
They've got this lovely, beautifully landscaped garden that she clearly has been taking care of because there's not a weed in sight. And it's like, all right, you want a pool? We're just going to rip the garden. Why would you take care of a garden if you know
it's just going to get ripped to shreds?
Get ripped to shreds in a day. So yeah, I'll add that one in. And then I had a hard time with the blatant product placement in this movie.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There's something about Pizza Hut we'll get into in the research later or the WTF, but the daughter's in bed with a bag of Lay's, which that was part of my doesn't hold up as well. Or I have something about that. But like the bag moves, it leaves crumbs everywhere, but like it's very obviously a Lay's bag. And then one of the paranormal investigators is eating Cheetos with a perfectly visible label to screen. And it made me realize like, 1980s is when product placement became a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the two more things that don't hold up for me.
Well, I had a couple others. One of them was, first of all, that guy that is sent by all his friends to go get beer on his BMX bike.
Yes.
And he runs in and drops 90% of them, and the other 10% are spewing out the sides because he's punctured them. It's so stupid.
I loved how long and far that beer sprayed for.
It went forever. That whole scene, and that reminds me of Chunk in The Goonies. Like, there's so many parallels to Steven Spielberg's other movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's riding up on this thing. First of all, obviously this man has had an impaired before in his life. Why is he
riding a bike to the liquor store?
Riding a BMX bike to the liquor store. And holding a flat of it in one arm and like trying to navigate with one hand. It was ridiculous. It was so funny though.
It was hilarious. But then also he's an adult being harassed by kids with their remote control cars. If I'm on my bike and someone's like driving their remote control cars, like I'm just going to keep biking forward. And if I break your car, it's your problem, not mine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm just going to run it over. Yeah.
And he left half the beer in the street.
I know. He just ran in there. Also, I had, how many joints is this mom going to smoke? So she's sitting there in the bed, just huffing away. And then Robbie comes in, he's scared.
Yeah.
And she takes one more puff, go talk to him, and sends the dad in to talk to him because she's fucking high.
Well, she's already had one on her own while he's trying to roll another.
I know. They're just going nuts. It just made me wonder how fucked up are 80s parents getting at that time. Yeah.
I kind of like that. It's like kids are in bed, bedroom's on the other side of the house.
Oh, I think it was hilarious and wasn't sure if it really holds up with today's parenting standards.
No.
In a movie, usually if they're going to be smoking pot or drinking, it's got some negative connotation to it, right? Like they're trying to show that these people are, drug abusers or whatever. They don't show that, hey, they're successful people. So I guess it is more of a positive spin on, hey, we're good parents and we're raising our kids, but we just like to get fucking high at the end of the night.
And I have to admit, I didn't realize they were smoking pot until this viewing because it had been that long and I was that naive when I first watched this movie.
Right. You just thought it was cigarettes?
Yeah, it's just like, whatever, they're smoking. Okay. One of mine that doesn't hold up, I've got this part of the movie in a few different categories, but the clairvoyant Tangina doesn't hold up for me. She's great in some scenes. I've got her further on. She is one of our lines, but she's been parodied so many times.
Oh, it took you out of it?
That it took me out of it. Like, this house is clean. All I could picture was Ace Ventura.
Yes.
And, Family Guy's done it. But it's one of those, like, it's so iconic. It becomes the joke.
Right.
I don't know if it's that it doesn't hold up or if it just suffers from parody.
Right.
And then my last one was just the ghost outside the bedroom door. The ghost dog. Sorry, the ghost dog outside the bedroom door. It was a great special effect, and watching the making of that you can find the link to on our website where it talks about how they used almost like a visual projector to overlap while filming. It's interesting, but it just reminded me of Falcor from the Neverending Story, and it didn't seem menacing.
Right.
So yeah, it was too cartoonish.
Right. So now our next one is most gratuitous scene. I'm going to kick this off. And my most gratuitous was, well, I'll give you two. One of them was the face peeling scene.
That was going to be mine.
Yeah. Really took me out of the moment. I was like, oh, come on. It just seemed kind of stupid. And then the other one was the goop on them when they fell through. Not because it took me out. I actually liked it.
Yeah.
When they came through and they fell onto the living room floor and they're all just covered in this gel.
It was almost like amniotic fluid or something, like they'd gone through birth.
It was really weird. And the rope has it on it, and anything that passes through those two portals has this stuff on it. And they don't really explain what it is or anything. And I like that as well, because you're just like, oh, what the hell is on them? But I just like those. So
yeah, that was my gratuitous, was the ripping of his face. My other gratuitous note is going to come up in the eerie to ear splitting category.
Okay. So then we're going to go into terrifying or titillating. And Mike, you're going to kick us off with that one.
There wasn't really much titillation. The one thing you could sort of talk to is after they think the house is clean and the mother's had her bath and she's laying on the bed and she gets attacked. Yeah. And it'll come into the research, but knowing what that scene was supposed to be really sort of changes the tone of what happens. So there isn't like any of that typical 1980s titillation with this one, but for terrifying, that clown doll.
Oh yeah. That was mine too. Yeah.
But it also,
that thing is messed up.
It's so creepy, but also it bothered me so much that he is clearly upset by it. And yet every night puts it at the end of his bed in a rocking chair.
It's sitting there. And then at the very end, he's like, I hate you. He's ripping it apart. Right. Yeah. I know. My terrifying or titillating was actually, I hope this doesn't make me sound disgusting, but I thought the mom with her shirt and her panties was pretty hot.
Yeah.
She was, and then she's rolling all up and down the way they did that, the rolling all up and down the walls and the ceiling and stuff like that. And then she's in the pool and she's doing that. It turned from like she's
a little bit of skin.
Oh, look at this, like kind of sexy to, whoa, this is getting really weird and kind of crazy. When she's in the pool and the skeletons are all popping up and she's with that, I thought that was pretty freaky. Yeah. So
the scene with her, it was good. And like she is a very attractive woman, but if you watch, she's constantly trying to pull her shirt back down.
She is. Yeah.
And so like the costuming on that was problematic, right? Where she's trying to, they're rotating the room and she's got to roll and
fall around and she's still trying to keep herself
down. Yeah.
So was that in your research?
No, I didn't find anywhere where she talks about the shirt, but she does talk about how like that scene took 50 takes.
Wow.
I think
just go into that. We can bring it up now.
I think that was the one that took 50 takes. And so the cameraman his shoes were like bolted to the floor and he was strapped into a chair to film. And then the room rotated 360 degrees.
I saw that, how they hooked it up. There's a giant crane on the outside and they like flipped it around.
Yeah. It was like the Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity video or Lionel Richie's Dancing on the Ceiling. Jo Beth Williams talks about how she had no padding. It was t-shirt and panties.
And she just flopped.
And she flopped around and she went to Steven Spielberg at one point and said, I am bleeding.
Right.
And he's like, oh, it's okay. Blood wipes off. Go again.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that scene, very good, but that poor woman and the camera operator, they had to cut and take breaks because he was vomiting from nausea.
Oh my gosh.
Because she stayed bottom while the room rotated. He was going around like a Ferris wheel, but upside down and around.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
So yeah, that scene was...
It did look really cool.
It was very well done.
It was very well done. 50 takes is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But it did look pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. With that, we're going to go into our stood the test of time. And I'm going to start. And that is my first stood the test of time, was that shot.
Yeah. It was great.
I just thought it was so well done.
Yeah.
And the way it rotated and everything. And I remember watching it and just being, how the heck did they do this? And then I watched a behind the scenes making of Poltergeist, and they showed the giant giant crane on it, and why they couldn't shoot in a regular house because there are so many effects in this film that we just had to
they had to move
build
walls
it in
and
the
ceilings.
studio, and we had to move everything around. The way it flips around and the way it moves. Yeah. I'll tell you, if I was the camera guy, I would have been puking too. Well, so that was my first one. Oh, go ahead. You had something to say?
I was just going to say, like, you look at that cameraman's harness. It looks like he's just strapped in with like linen bed sheets.
Probably was at that time. We're just going to anchor him down with these like sheets we have laying around. Yeah. No cables, nothing. And then my next one was, I know you say she's kind of a parody and everything. I love the super psychic.
Yeah.
Tangina, when she comes in and is just this small little thing that's, oh, something's going on here. And I loved her. I thought that character is pretty cool.
I love the way she's shot because she's always shot from a low angle. Yeah. Like she has power in every scene she's in. Makes
her look a lot bigger than she actually is. Yeah.
I did love the scene where she's upstairs, like looking around the house.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't even think she's a good clairvoyant.
Yeah. And then she pokes her head around and then
I heard you. I just don't appreciate bad jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was golden. What did you have there, Mike?
For me, for my test of time, to be honest, this is like, it's such a small thing, but I watched this movie with the lights all off. And at the beginning, when the TV is flickering.
Oh, yeah.
Like this movie should come with epilepsy warnings.
It really should.
It's a lot of flicker, but it fills the room and it really just... It's almost hypnotic the way it draws you in, and they do a good job with that. And then my next one was the stacking of the chairs in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I loved that shot and how they did it. And I'll jump into my research on this one as well, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So it's done in a one shot where she's at the kitchen table. You see the kitchen table in the shot. She puts Carol Ann on the counter and then they follow her into the kitchen and then she turns back to the table. And in that several seconds, the crew had to run in and balance the chairs and get out of shot because that was done. Like it was a practical
effect. Yeah.
And it is like good, I wouldn't say jump scare, but you don't see it coming. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I'll just say, my general note for Stood the Test of Time was the practical effects still hold true. Like they're very well done. Mm-hmm. Some of the special effects, such as when they open the room and things are floating around and the turntable and stuff, it looks fake.
Yeah, when the lamp flies in front of them and the bulb goes in, like it's clearly animated.
Yes, exactly. So there are some questionable moments, and that's looking back. Like at that time in 82, it would have been amazing.
I don't remember as a kid thinking like, nah, that looks a little forced.
Yeah, I know. But now looking back on it, you're like, it just doesn't hold true. But overall, very, very well done. Mm-hmm. I had another one, the jump scare in 1 hour and 38 minutes, that stupid fucking clown doll jumps out and grabs that kid. And I jumped. Yeah. I actually dropped my book. It's like, Jesus. And I guess the good thing about it is like I had only seen this movie once, and it was once as a junior high kid. So it's been a long, long time since I've seen this. So a lot of the stuff was, oh yeah, I remember this, but a lot of it was, oh, okay, this is kind of new. That one I did not remember. And so when it got me, it got me. And it's a dirtier clown. It's a messier clown that grabs Robbie, and it's really scary.
Well, it's funny because like I knew the clown attack was coming, and it does the whole like lean over the bed, lift up the bed.
Yes.
Like you know something's coming.
Kind of a trope there, right? Yeah.
But even me knowing that the clown does attack him, it's still like,
well, and they couple it with music and the action.
Yeah.
I think when it's done well like that, it still holds true. It's when people just use music to get their scares that bother me. But yeah, that was really well done.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you have any others?
I had a few more.
Go ahead.
My next one is, and this is more like just nostalgia / jealousy, but the toys and posters in Robbie's side of the room.
Oh, yeah.
He's got all the Star Wars. He's got Aliens posters. He's got like the sports paraphernalia.
Yeah.
That kid's got the best bedroom. My other one was when the tree takes Robbie.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was so well done.
It was. And it was still really, really creepy. It didn't look like a puppet. It didn't look really fake. They shot it really well because all the crazy lighting and the rain, all the confusion that's happening really helps to sell that.
And when he's being swallowed into the trunk
Yeah.
Like that was just so well done and so creepy. And
Yeah. I agree.
Felt very unsafe.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I just got a few more. I loved, this was just a quick little beat. It wasn't quite a back it up, so I threw it in tested time. But when they're outside of the bedroom, when the investigators first get to the house, and the one paranormal investigator is like, yeah, we've recorded things in the past. Like we recorded this one time. This car traveled across the floor for 7 meters. And it's like, yeah, we've got the whole 7 hours. And Craig T. Nelson's like, 7 hours? Like, well, yeah, I had to use time lapse. It took 7 hours. You wouldn't see it in the naked eye, right? And they're just so amazed, like they caught this paranormal motion in 7 hours. And Craig T. Nelson just looks at them like, you haven't seen anything yet, you idiot. And then they open the bedroom, and it is that like turntable, everything's spinning, going crazy.
Yeah.
But just that look on his face, like, have I got something for you?
Yeah. Oh, so that's your experience? Well, look at this. Yeah.
And then I do love that it then cuts to Dr. Lesh, who's supposed to be an expert, and he's like the rattling teacup trope of like,
yes.
Whoa.
I also did like the way the steak moved.
Yeah, that was good too.
When it got on there, and the way, I didn't like how it like unfolded and stuff, but while it was moving,
it was like an inchworm.
Kind of, it's kind of creepy. Yeah.
I did like Carol Ann's TV voice.
Oh, yes.
Just that echoey pull, sort of pull back, almost reversing, but not quite. That one really still sends shivers up my spine.
Yeah.
And then I'll just do 2 more. The contra zoom when Diane's running down the hallway.
Oh, okay.
Right? When the demon attacks again.
With the red lighting on the door. Yeah. She's walking through. Yeah.
I watched that a couple times because I was like, I know it's a contra zoom, but also they made the hallway longer than it really was. I was looking to see, was she running in place at first, but she wasn't. So they used that effect really well there to slow down how quickly she could get there. Mm-hmm. And I loved the final shot of the film. So I don't know if it's a back it up or a test of time, but they go to the Holiday Inn.
Oh, yeah.
They go into the room, he takes the TV and leaves it on the...
I had that as a back it up moment.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. But I loved that. I thought it was hilarious.
It was a great punchline to the movie.
It was, yeah. Because they're just disheveled. Yeah. When they're walking towards the Holiday Inn room, they just look beat up.
Yeah.
And they're not talking to each other. They're all just staring down the way. And then the first thing he does is he just puts the TV out. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So with that, we're going to go into our eerie to ear splitting. Mike, did you have a eerie to ear splitting moment?
I have 2. I'm going to start with the bad, and then I'll finish with the good later. But this is a Spielberg film musically through and through. Jerry Goldsmith's score almost ruins it.
Oh, yeah.
There's too much music.
Yep.
Constant music. I mean, it seems to be almost like the 1970s did well. The 80s are really rich, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
I did enjoy when they're showing the community and playing this idyllic music to show like this is the perfect neighborhood.
Yeah.
But then it takes so long for those credits to go through, and it takes so long to get to the film that it's like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And there was so much music, just over the top, pounding you in the face music for this whole film.
No, I totally agree. One of my eerie to ear splitting moments was in the moment where the mom is going into the closet and they do the kiss with the light behind them.
Oh, yeah.
The music just didn't, it's very, it was just very cheesy.
Yeah.
I just didn't buy it. And I did have a problem with that. So my second one was I had Robbie yelling Carol Ann over and over and over and over again. I just thought was annoying.
Yeah, we get that he's panicked. We get that he's scared, but it was too much.
Yeah. Do you have any others there, Mike?
There were a couple moments where I enjoyed what they did with sound or without music. And one is when Diana sort of, I wouldn't say given up hope, because she never quite gives up hope, but she's standing outside the bedroom and she's talking in like to Carol Ann, are you there? Right? Yeah. She hasn't heard back from Carol Ann yet. And she opens the door just hoping. And there's that scream that comes from inside.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just punches, it's sharp. Maybe it's because I had the sound up loud and the 5.1, but it was just like, holy shit. Like it shook me. And then she closes the door and she breaks down. It was just like, oh, like, yeah, that sound. I would love to know what they did or what they layered in to make it so uncomfortable to hear. Cause it was more than just like there was more to it. And then this one is around Diane as well. And because of what they've gone through, she has that gray streak in her hair. And so she's going, the kids are in bed and she's like, oh, I'm going to go dye my hair now. And there's silence.
Yeah.
And that creeped me out because this entire film, we've had music telling us it's going scary or it's going good or whatever.
Yeah.
And now we've got nothing. And so it's like, are they finally free? Are they not?
Right.
And for me, it really got tense. And I think it's probably because part of me remembered, like, no, there's another attack coming very shortly after what we're about to see, or what we're seeing. But Spielberg gives us, sorry, I keep saying Spielberg, and we'll get to that in the research, but yeah, Hooper gives us no hints as to what's coming. And so I thought that was really good. And so I put that in the eerie and ear splitting because it's like the score was too much. And finally they take it away and it becomes that terror.
Interesting. And with that, we're going to go into our what the fuck moment. And I'll kick us off with that one. Actually, I said I had one, but I think I got two. One of them was there was a lightning shot at the beginning of the film. It was around 21 minutes and 30 seconds. And that shocked me.
Oh,
got me. I was like, whoa. So that was one of them. The next one was and I believe I'm stepping on your toes here, was the clown. The clown just being there, first of all, is unsettling as he's on the rocking chair. And every time the kid looks at it, and is this the time it's going to happen? Is this the time it's going to happen? Is this, they just keep going to that. And then finally the clown does attack. Yeah. And when he's ripping it apart and I hate you. I always hated you. And he just is just ripping the stuffing out of it. It's like, whoa, this guy is going psycho on this clown. So those were my two WTF moments. What were yours, Mike?
The clown wasn't one of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought it was.
For what the fucks. I've talked about two already. One was the eating chips in bed. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And the getting steak as a midnight snack. What the fuck?
Yes.
My other one, I had to Google what was going on. It didn't come up in the research until I Googled it, but the harsh edit from the kitchen to the neighbor Ben's front door.
Oh, yeah.
After they've slid the chair across the floor and they've slid Carol Ann across the floor and they're talking, and then it's just like mid-word cut to neighbor's door.
Yeah.
And I found out it's because Pizza Hut complained because Craig T. Nelson's line coming up was going to be, I hate Pizza Hut.
Oh.
And yeah, so, but it was just like,
Boo earns.
But I find it interesting that Spielberg's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to cut that out of the film, but he didn't fix it in any ways.
Yeah, they're just like, well, we'll just do a hard cut to it.
Yeah, we didn't reshoot. We didn't fade, cross, dissolve, but I wonder if that was his way of telling the studio, like, you bowed to corporate pressure. I'm leaving it in so the audience is aware that we did this. I don't know. But it was a what the fuck, because it just seemed
out of place.
Yeah. And then I was just like, did something get lost in a restoration?
You're right.
But no, it's just Pizza Hut said, you can't have the I hate Pizza Hut, which is weird because there's going to be a link on the website to the whole dialogue that gets edited out. They could have just clipped that part of his speech and had everything else stay. Yeah. Because it's 4 words and the rest of it would have fit.
Right.
But, yeah.
I guess another thing, now that you talk about it, is those neighbors. Like, if they're coming help us, blah, 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 blah. And and the kids are screaming, lights are going off, and they're just, nope. Yeah. I'm not. In fact, I didn't really hear what the mom was saying because there was a lot of screaming. She's like, what are you doing to your kids or something like that? Like, she blames them. Yeah. And then, you got to help us. You got to help. And they're like, no, we're not going up there. No. Yeah. They just weird. Yeah. Okay. Into our back it up moments. Mike, what was a back it up moment for you?
My first back it up moment is right at the very beginning of the film where the TV's on and Craig T. Nelson has fallen asleep in front of it and Carol Ann starts talking to the ghosts.
Oh, okay.
Just her voice, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just so creepy, so good. And yeah, it's a great way to just right off the bat. We're not going to build to the possession. We're going to have the possession start and we'll get to know the family at the same time.
Right. Mine, we had already talked about the TV coming out was mine, but also just the image of her in the TV. When she sits down and puts her hands on the television and it's on the poster, it was just so well done.
Yeah, it is the shot.
Yeah. And with the snow and the flickering of the lights and everything and her like platinum blonde hair, everything just works. Yeah. And it just looks so amazing. So yeah, I only had 2 back it up moments and those were them.
My next one almost feels like a cheat because it's more than just like a back it up moment. It's a like sequence of scenes. It's the whole going into the closet with the rope.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like I did enjoy the part where Tangina's like, you need to get mad at her. And Craig T. Nelson's like, I've never got mad at her before. Say you're going to spank her. I've never spanked her before. Like, it was kind of cool because it shows like, no, he's actually a really good father. Yeah. But when they start tying the rope off and they're going into the closet and you've got that really good light and you've got the fans blowing. Yeah. And it incorporates that line of like, you've never done this before. or neither of you. You're right. You go.
Yeah.
It was just so good. And again, Zelda Rubinstein in that scene where she's experienced and she's dealt with demons before, but she gets overwhelmed by the ghosts and backs up into the wall because she can't even believe the power that she's facing. And
Yeah.
I loved that. That was such a great moment. And I think that's why I like this movie, is because so many other horror movies, when it comes to the confrontation of a ghost, fall apart.
Yes.
And this one doesn't.
Really, the last 30 minutes of this film are awesome.
Yeah. That's why I feel like it's a cheat, because it's like, it's a back it up movie. No.
Yeah. Well, if you get the relationship down, then you can just watch the haunting part. That's where it all really gets wild and crazy and fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to move into hiding in the shadows. So I had one, and I wasn't sure where to put this, but I was like, at an hour and 11 minutes when they're walking through, all of a sudden Craig T. Nelson is chewing on a dandelion. And I was, why? Like he's up there trying to be like this Texan or what, old farm. I was like, what are you doing?
Got some good land up here.
Yeah.
Prospecting's coming nice this time.
That's right.
My hiding in the shadows was a question that came up in my viewing about 3/4 of the way through the movie. And I think I wrote it almost as a, like, from a critical lens where it's like, what could this movie have been if it wasn't in Spielberg's hands?
Oh, okay.
But I think it's because by that point I was tired of the score. I was tired of this came up in a review I was reading, like the Amblin effect, right? The Amblin entertainment effect, where it made everything childish. So
yeah,
when we get into the research, we'll talk about what this film could have been without the Spielberg fingerprints on it.
Right. I had a couple of tropes that I missed. Number one was at the end, the car won't start. He tried to get the car going and it wouldn't go. And I thought the house imploding was still kind of cool.
Yeah.
I thought it looked all right by today's standards.
Yeah, I thought it was great. What's funny about the house imploding, this is almost a hiding in the shadows as well, because The Simpsons had a house imploding at the end of their Amityville-esque parody in the Treehouse of Horror.
Right.
So when we were watching Amityville, I kept waiting for the house to implode. And so then when I was watching Poltergeist, I was like, there it is. Yeah. But the way they did it was really good. And this wasn't something I kept from the research because it came up, but I couldn't find the figures, so I didn't go into it more. But the cost of that collapsing model house cost the same as what it would cost to buy a house at that time.
Oh, wow.
To get that effect, yeah.
Holy smokes. Okay, so now we're going to head into our bonus features. I'm going to start, and my first one, which I found pretty interesting, and this is not really research on the film, but it's more to do with the actors. On October 30th, 1982, Dominic Dunn's ex-boyfriend, she played Dana, strangled her unconscious in the driveway of her West Hollywood home, and she died on November 4th, having never regained consciousness at the age of 22.
Yeah, it's tragic.
And then Heather O'Rourke, who played Carol Ann, died of an intestinal stenosis on February 1st, 1988, at the age of 12.
Yeah.
And both are buried in the Westwood Memorial Park in Los Angeles. So some tragedy for those two actors. I couldn't believe that she was strangled by her ex-boyfriend at 22 years old.
That story is tragic. And the Heather O'Rourke one is tragic because the mother had taken her to doctors constantly and they misdiagnosed her.
Right.
And they missed what was wrong with her.
I remember when it was announced that she had passed.
Yeah.
And my dad was reading it in Time magazine or something. He's like, oh, the little girl from Poltergeist died. I was like, what?
It was very weird.
Yeah.
And it was just before part 3 was coming out too.
That's right. Yeah. Because she had just finished filming it and then did that. Yeah. And you didn't like those other two, eh?
Part 2, I didn't mind.
I didn't mind part 2 because of the
tequila
priest.
worm. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that God is in his holy temple. Like that guy was creepy.
There were moments that were good. I think maybe 3, that's with Tom Skerritt, right?
Yeah, 3 was a little much.
Yeah, I think that one was the one that kind of ruined it.
Yeah. I didn't like 3. 2, I thought was okay, but 3 I wasn't a fan of. Yeah. You want to kick off your research there?
Yeah, I found an interview on Vanity Fair with Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams, but mostly Jo Beth Williams. But she was talking about the swimming pool scene.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, I always assumed that the skeletons were made by the prop department.
Yeah, I did read this, yeah.
A few years later, I ran into one of the special effects guys and I said, you guys making all those skeletons, that must have been really amazing. And he said, oh, we didn't make them. They were real. And I said, what? He said, yeah. Those were real skeletons. So she was in the water with cadavers, and Craig D. Nelson in an interview was like, yeah, that water had everything. It had cadavers. It had amoeba. It wasn't clean water.
Yeah, she's lucky she didn't get sick.
Yeah.
One of the things I found interesting, and also a Steven Spielberg stamp on this, was both of the terrors that attacked Robbie were fears from Steven Spielberg's childhood. Like, so the tree outside the house was based on his fears as a child, and the clown doll, because he has a fear of clowns as well. I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you have another one?
This one was kind of interesting, and it would have been, again, one of those, like, what could this movie have been like? They approached Stephen King to write the script.
Ooh.
But King's like, I was on a cruise ship going across the Atlantic, so I never got the call. And so then they couldn't get him to write it. So it would have been interesting to see, would it have been better or worse? The 80s was King's like cocaine heyday.
It would have been weird. But you know what? Speaking to that, there were darker parts in this film.
Yes.
And because Steven Spielberg wanted a PG rating, they took those out. Like Carol Ann was supposed to die in the first scene, or the first abduction, I guess.
Yeah.
So the ghosts were supposed to be a menacing presence throughout the whole thing. They weren't supposed to be all friendly and childlike at first. They were supposed to be attacking right out of the gate. So it'd be interesting to see what that movie looks like with the original cut.
The rest of this movie hinges on bringing people in to get Carol Ann back.
Yes.
If Carol Ann was dead, maybe it would be like the demons were pretending to be Carol Ann, because otherwise the family has no reason to not just
pursue,
get out of Dodge.
And not just get out of there. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Also, Steven Spielberg worked on this film and E.T. He wanted them both in the theater at the same time, which is why he wanted the PG rating, so they could go see E.T. and the Poltergeist.
Yeah, just the summer of Spielberg is
Make
what one
money.
Yeah. So this was the quote. Sorry, when we talked about that spinning room, Jo Beth Williams is like, I had to be on a 360-degree turning set, which I had never heard of. And when they said, you're going to just ride this thing and slide along the ceiling, I went, okay, I see. What they didn't say was that I'd be doing 50 takes of it, and by the end, my elbows and knees were bleeding. She recalls. Yeah.
It's so funny within the research that we do for these films, the amount that actors had to go through to get these shots, right?
Weirdly, mostly the female actors.
A lot. Yeah. A lot of them had to do their own stunts.
Yeah.
And I kind of found this interesting. And next time I'm in Vegas, I'm going to go check it out. The clown is displayed in Planet Hollywood at Caesar's Palace.
Oh, cool.
So that clown puppet is still around as long as Planet Hollywood and Caesar's Palace is still around.
Yeah, I was going to say, that might not be a thing.
That might not be there anymore. Yeah. Did you have another one?
Just sort of two casting changes that could have happened. Drew Barrymore was considered for the role of Carol Ann.
I did read that. Yeah.
But then when he saw O'Rourke, he was like, that's the angelic face I've been looking for. So went with that. But then he put Drew Barrymore in E.T. because he still thought Drew Barrymore was great. So,
right. Yeah.
Oh, and sorry, the other one, Susan Sarandon was considered for the role of Diane. And I think that would have been just as good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Poltergeist special effects and score were both nominated for Oscars, but lost to Steven Spielberg's bigger film E.T. in both categories.
Interesting. I would give Poltergeist effects and I would give E.T. the score.
Yes.
E.T., the monster effects were good. For what we call monster effects, E.T. wasn't a monster, but
the alien puppet.
The creature effects were great.
Yeah.
But I think Poltergeist did more, but maybe because of the face, they're like, we can't give it to Poltergeist.
That could be it, yeah. The other thing is the word poltergeist is German for noisy ghost.
Oh. I had a couple others. They talk about the curse of Poltergeist or like weird things that happen, right? We've talked about that before where it's like you're filming a horror film, weird things are going to happen. Yeah. One was on set where when Robbie gets attacked by the animated clown and he gets pulled off the bed, the actual arms of the clown became too constricting and actually began to choke Robbie. So he yelled like, I can't breathe. Well, I guess he's like, I can't breathe. And Spielberg thought again, like Argento did,
acting.
Like, this kid's great.
Yeah.
But it was when Robbie started turning purple that Spielberg jumped in to open the mechanism to like save this poor kid. So like, Jesus.
Wow.
The other one, much funnier, is Jo Beth Williams, when she would return to her trailer or her room at the end of filming. Yeah. The pictures in her apartment were always askew on the wall. So then she would straighten them all. And then when she would leave in the morning, they were fine. When she'd come back, they were askew again. And so she's filming a horror film. She was starting to get really nervous about it and like actually scared to go to work. But then she finally put it together that when she was leaving, she was kind of slamming the door. And that was causing the pictures. So she was freaking her own self out.
Steven Spielberg hired Tobe Hooper after being impressed at his work with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
One of the reasons Steven Spielberg spent more time on set than he should have done as a producer was due to the delays of E.T.
There were a lot of stories as to why he was there, and there's a lot of stories as to what was going on. Like, because he wanted to direct this, but contractually wasn't able to for whatever reason.
Right.
So he got Hooper. So then he was like, I'll produce, but then he was very hands-on. And
he wanted to direct it. He wanted to be in there. Yeah.
So some people talk to the fact that Tobe Hooper was absent a lot of the time. And so that's why Spielberg had to step in. That's one of the rumors.
Well, one of the actresses, Zelda, said that she thought that he had a drug problem.
Yeah, she claims to be clairvoyant or psychic herself.
Oh, okay.
And that she had a sense that he was on drugs, which could have been true.
Yeah. Wasn't everybody on drugs at that time?
Yeah. And so there was an article, I think it was on the timeout.com one that I'll have linked, where people think that Spielberg was the one that was starting those rumors.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's hard to say. And then Spielberg, when the film came out, took a page out of, I forget what newspaper it was, but it was an open letter to Tobe Hooper, thanking him for his work on the film. But one of those lines was basically saying, like, in the future, I would do things differently and I would be more honest with the work I'm doing on a film.
Oh.
So is that him saying, like, because Spielberg has said publicly Hooper was the director.
Yes.
But in that letter, was that his way of saying, I have to say that because contractually I couldn't be the director. So it's a weird mythology around this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go into our watchability scale here. I always like to go last. So Mike, what do you rate this out of 10?
I give it a 7. I do really like it. It does still get to me in scenes.
Yep.
But the Spielbergness of it brings it down. This morning it was a 6, but talking about it brought me up to a 7.
Oh, okay. I was always at a 7, and I'm going to hold there. I agree. I think there are awesome moments as far as horror movie goes. It is a really good introduction to horror if you want to get your kids into horror or whatever like that. But I agree. There are just some scenes that I found kind of hokey. Yeah. Some scenes that I found a little bit too overdone. And then the special effects in a couple of scenes just really didn't do it for me. So yeah, I'm going to hold fast at a 7 out of 10. I believe it's well acted. I believe it's well directed. I believe there are obviously really, really strong moments, but 7 out of 10 is where I'm going to go to. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for listening to us. And remember to follow us on Instagram where we are at Scream Stream Pod. Stop by our website, screamsandstreams.com, for more information about our episodes, descriptions of our categories, links to our research, our watchability scale, and a page where you can recommend movies you want us to discuss. Please rate, comment on, and subscribe to our show on any of the platforms where you get your podcasts. Until next time, this has been Chad and
Mike.
Scare you later.